much, and welcome to this meeting of Cabinet. My name is Jonathan Lester, Leader of the Council, and I will be chairing this meeting. In addition to those councillors present in the room, we just checked that we've got councillors joining us remotely. I will now check that they can see and hear us, and we can see and hear them. So, Councillor Fagan.
Yes, good afternoon, Councillor Lester. I can see and hear you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other councillors? No. Okay. Thank you for joining us, Councillor Fagan. So we have group leaders in attendance and officers as well as Cabinet. And so thank you. I will now formally open the meeting. The agenda papers and other relevant information for this meeting are available for public viewing on Herefordshire Council's website. The Council is streaming this meeting live on Herefordshire Council's YouTube channel and making a recording. To ensure that recording quality is maintained, please make sure that you speak as clearly as possible and that background noise is kept to a minimum. Microphones should be muted when you are not speaking. If you have an issue with your microphone, please let the clerk know and we will allocate a new microphone. Please make sure that all electronic devices are turned to silent. Others may be permitted to film or photograph or record our public meetings, provided it does not disrupt the business of the meeting. If any members of the public who do attend the meeting will not wish to be filmed or photographed, they must notify a member of staff. As we move through the agenda, in addition to discussion by Cabinet members, I will invite group leaders or their representatives to indicate if they wish to speak and provide the views of the group and answer any questions. Where appropriate, I will also ask scrutiny chairpersons to comment. Voting will be undertaken by a show of hands for those Cabinet members in the room. Okay, so my opening remarks, it's simply to welcome Councillor Dan Hurcombe to his new Cabinet role. So Dan is a very hard-working member of this council, and it's an absolute pleasure to welcome him as a Cabinet member. So thank you very much. Okay. Right, okay, excellent. So do we have any apologies for absence?
Just Councillor Biggs.
Okay, thank you very much. So that's agenda item 1. Agenda item 2 is declarations of interest. So are there any table A, table B, or any other interests for the items on the agenda today? No, okay, thank you. Agenda item 3 is minutes of the previous meeting held on the 1st of May 2025. No matters of accuracy have been notified. Oh, except one. So we'll hear that now. Councillor Swinglehurst.
Thank you, Lisa. Page 12, as a matter of accuracy, the 1 million megawatt hours from the energy from waste plant is from the total waste stream, not just the food waste. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for that clarification. And if we can update the minutes accordingly with that additional clarification, do all Cabinet members agree that that's an accurate record of the meeting? Thank you very much. That's unanimous. So agenda item 4 is to receive any questions from members of the public. Members of the public have the opportunity to submit questions to Cabinet in writing ahead of the meeting. We have received 4 public questions for this meeting, and the responses have been published as supplement to the agenda papers. Those who have submitted a question have been given the opportunity to submit a written supplementary question or to attend the meeting and ask their question live. Supplementary questions must be no more than 1 minute in length and must include a question. So can I ask the clerk if we've received any supplementary questions, please?
We've received 3 supplementary questions from members of the public. The first one, I'll just bring up on screen now. It's from Miss Emile Forfeit for Councillor Swinglehurst. There we go. The question, my initial question was referred to Cabinet and the response suggests it's not a high-level issue and not for the public to question at this stage. Surely the very essence of a high-level SEA Strategic Environmental Assessment is to examine the location and impact of proposed new infrastructure and urban expansions in the LTP5 before any land is allocated for development. With this in mind, will this council consider commissioning a hydrological survey of the Yeza catchment as a priority to evaluate the risk of 1. Major adverse impact on both the commercial aquifer supplying Avera and Heineken from road construction over source protection zones SPZ1 and SPZ2, and the inevitable increased risk of flooding in Hereford City from runoff and the risk of failure of substantial flood alleviation schemes required for the proposed western urban expansion.
Thank you very much for the supplementary question. Councillor Swinglehurst.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Moffat, for the supplementary question. The requirements around the SEA and its role to inform the development of the LTP is prescribed in legislation, and Herefordshire Council have complied with all requirements. Therefore, the Council does not intend to commission any additional surveys over what is legally required at this stage. As per the initial response, we will work with developers, and as the Council brings forward our own schemes, we will ensure any further required surveys are commissioned. Thank you.
Hello, Councillor Davis. Do you mind? All right. Thank you very much. Some jolly tunes going on there. Okay.
Sorry, Jonathan. I'm just on the department of the orthopedics department. I'll get back to you in a few minutes. Okay.
Okay, then. Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
The wonders of modern technology. Okay. Thank you very much. So the next supplementary question, please.
Sorry, Leader, if you just bear with me, I've in
Yes,
error
okay.
copied and pasted the wrong thing.
It's okay.
So I just need
There's
to bring
there's-
it back up.
There's no rush.
Sorry, the second supplementary question is from Jill Ginman for Councillor Price. It is, I am grateful to learn that the comments I raised in my question, in which I have submitted as part of the consultation process, will be welcomed. As Councillor Price has said, in response to a public question to Cabinet on the 5th of October 2023, that the reopening of a station at Pontralis has long been a priority of Herefordshire Council, and in response to my question on 27th of March this year, that the Council continues to support the Golden Valley Parkway Station plan as a strategically important proposal for the county and wider region. Please can he explain why it does not count as a Pacific scheme to be referenced in the LTP?
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ginman and Councillor Price.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Ginman, for your supplementary question. We remain fully supportive of the Golden Valley Parkway Station scheme, but it is still in the early stages of development and does not yet have the detailed business case or funding commitments from government or Network Rail required for inclusion as a defined project within the draft LTP. The LTP prioritises schemes that are more advanced in terms of deliverability and alignment with current government funding programmes. The LTP is designed to be a flexible, evolving framework which allows for upgrades to it as projects develop and evolve. We will also consider all comments received through the consultation in finalising the LTP. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Price, for that clarification. And lastly, in public questions, supplementary question from Sally Webster.
Yes, for Councillor Durkin. In light of guidance to authorities on applying the strengthened duty to meet the Countryside and Right-of-Way Act, Section 85 in National Landscapes, May 2025 briefing, and impacts of the Hillsford Rally last year on species and habitat, tranquility and access as evidenced by Wye Valley and Malvern Hills National Landscapes consultation response, what further information is required before making a decision on whether the Hillsford Stages Rally takes place on the requested route this year? Additionally, in the event of any change to the requested route, when will this new route be published? How long will the period of consultation be? And how will Herefordshire Council meet its strengthened duty to sensitive areas adjacent to the national landscapes?
Thank you very much for that question. Councillor Durkin.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms Webster, for your supplementary question. All information submitted and guidance provided is currently being collated and considered. The determination will be made by relevant officers under the Council's role as the Highway Authority. I am unable to comment further on when that decision will be made. The organisers are aware of the views expressed in the engagement response and will need to provide supporting information setting out how they are going to or intending to mitigate any perceived impact. At this stage, we have not received any information as to a potential route change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Durkin. So agenda item 5 now is to receive any questions from councillors. We have received 2 questions from councillors for this meeting, and the responses have been published in the supplement to the agenda papers. But we now have 1 supplementary question from Councillor Proctor, and it's great to see you here in person, Councillor Proctor. So the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the answer to my question, and I recognise that the missing homelessness statistics are just one of those things. I still don't know what those numbers are, but I know that they're very large because we spent £3.4 million on temporary accommodation last year, and this seems to me to be an emergency for large parts of the council, the county. And it's, I'm aware that some things are happening, but they seem to me to be happening at a speed considerably below what you would expect if it was really being treated as an emergency. And I'm looking at Councillor Gandy, and I recognise that this isn't just Councillor Gandy's problem. In fact, reducing homelessness is really not, doesn't sit in Councillor Gandy's portfolio. So maybe the leader could outline what key steps will happen this year that will lead to a significant reduction in the number of people becoming homeless.
Councillor Gandy.
I can actually, because I was going to raise it later on in the debate, I can actually tell you the number of people that we've got in temporary accommodation and bed and breakfast accommodation as at the end of the financial year. So we had 156 households. They would be mainly single people or couples in temporary accommodation. And on top of that, we have got 104 households, which could be a lot of families, in bed and breakfast accommodation. It's not the sort of bed and breakfast accommodation that you would associate with the norm, where you have your bed and breakfast and then you have to be out. They're properties that we own or commission where people can stay most of the time. But so that amounts to 260 households who at present are living in temporary accommodation. Now, you're right, I do not have responsibility for strategic housing, and that is Councillor Biggs's area, and the leader may be able to enlarge on that. All I can say is that we have plans in place for more appropriate temporary accommodation going forward, which will be brought to Cabinet fairly shortly, and that will relieve the situation to a degree. But ultimately, we do not have in Herefordshire enough affordable rented accommodation, and we do not have enough affordable houses to buy on the market. And we are doing our utmost to try to get as many houses for rent that we possibly can going forward, and to try to bring forward as many properties as possible that are discounted to buy, but it is what it is, and it's a situation which is the same across the whole country.
Thank you, Councillor Gandy, but I would just add that we're acutely aware of the problem with regard to the provision of temporary accommodation, which is why we're just finalising the acquisition of a building in the centre of Hereford where we will be able to provide that facility ourselves. That is taking direct action, if I can put it that way, to address what is a really serious issue. And hopefully that facility will be up and running, let's say within the next 6 months. We'll be in a position to provide that type of accommodation. We're also in the process of making sure that we can utilise a building in Leominster as well to create 4 flats, so that will be used as well for temporary accommodation. So I think that's a clear indication that this administration is taking this matter with the utmost seriousness and investing so that not only we can address this really serious issue, but also use our resources wisely to reduce costs as well. Councillor Gandy, sorry, I don't want to make it a debate, but did you?
I just wanted to clarify something. We should have completed the acquisition of the building within the next 6 months, but we will then have to do work on that building.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah,
so we are
absolutely.
probably talking about a
Yeah,
year.
but the point is this: in our control, we will be in a much better position to
Yes.
address the issue of temporary accommodation,
Yes.
and that is something that I think is, as I said, a clear indication of our commitment to addressing this very serious issue. But thank you for the question, Councillor Proctor, and your support in making sure that we've got our housing obligations and the housing issue on the top of our agenda. So thank you for your question. Right, we will now move on to agenda item 6, which is reports from scrutiny committees, but there are no reports from scrutiny committees to be discussed today. So we will move swiftly on to Q4 performance report, agenda item 7. So this item is to review the performance for Q4 of 2024-25 and to report on the performance position across all directorates for this period. This item begins on page 21 of the agenda pack, and I will ask Councillor Stoddart to introduce this item. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lydia. Today I'm very pleased to present the Q4 performance report for financial year 24-25. This is the 4th and final report in respect to the associated 24-25 delivery plan and finally the associated council plan of 2024-28. The report continues to demonstrate our support for our vision by delivering the best for Herefordshire in everything we do through an ambitious and challenging delivery plan. I'm proud to see that 78% or 146 out of the 187 milestones have been completed this year. 9% or 17 are red and will be carried over into the 25-26 delivery plan. The details for each of these red milestones are detailed clearly in Appendix A. We also have 12% or 23 milestones which are categorised as purple, which will also be carried over into the 2025-26 delivery plan, and this is due to the timescales changing due to an interdependent activity. And finally, we have one milestone which is awaiting an outturn of CO2 emissions to be available for 24-25 in order to assess whether the target has been met. Whilst it is disappointing that we have been unable to complete all 187 milestones, we are being fully transparent with the reasons why these have not been completed. Beyond the delivery plan, the Council has achieved many successes in Q4 of 24-25. We have continued to deliver on our capital investment programme, which comprises of over 100 projects. The table at para 2 of the report provides some highlights from Q4 and includes Peterchurch Primary School, with the £10.8 million new build planned to commence in September 2025. The expansion of Aylstone School, funded by £13.1 million of Department for Education money, which is due to commence construction in September 2025. We have completed 2 projects in Q4 under the Schools Capital Maintenance Programme and completed 5 projects in Q4 under the Estates Capital Investment Programme. As part of the S106 delivery programme, 6 projects have been completed, and these include a bus shelter at St Martin's Way in Ledbury and an extension to the offices and reception area at Ashfield Park Primary School in Ross. As part of the School Accessibility Improved programme, we've completed 2 projects, which include internal adaptation and remodelling at Sutton St Nicholas Primary School to improve accessibility for disabled pupils. We've also conducted £15 million of road resurfacing across the county, which has seen us complete 10% of the county's road networks having been addressed. The complex and drawn-out legal agreements with Network Rail and Transport for Wales have been completed, and the Hereford Transport Hub contractor has been selected, with construction work beginning in Q1 of 25-26. Under the Home Lacey active travel improvements, the detailed design and road safety audits were completed, and construction is due to get underway soon. The phosphate mitigation integration wetlands has seen a detailed design for the Tarrington wetland completed during Q4, ahead of its planned construction in Q1 of 25-26. In regards to the Shire Hall Restoration and Library Learning Centre, planning and listed building consent was secured, and a 2-stage procurement process for construction delivery got underway. The £19.15 million Hereford Museum and Art Gallery saw the Stage 1 contractor procurement concluded during Q4. The Home Upgrade Grant 2 completed in Q4 and delivered thermal and energy upgrades to 220 off-mains Herefordshire households against a target of 200. And finally, as part of the £40.3 million Western Bypass Phase 1, design consultants have been appointed during Q4 and the design process has begun. I would now like to also then turn to the first of the council plan themes, that of people. The graphic in the report shows that of the 60 milestones in the delivery plan, 55 have been completed, with 3 coloured red, which we rolled forward into next year's delivery plan, and 2 coloured purple, as I explained earlier, being incorporated into next year's delivery plan due to the timescale changing due to other interdependent activities. Within the area of children and young people, over 300 young people aged 16 to 24 have been referred to the Youth Employment Hub, surpassing the target of 200 referrals for the year. The capacity of special education needs, or SEN, school places has been increased, with an additional 56 specialist places becoming available over the next year. These placements will focus on supporting students with autism and social, emotional and mental health (SEMH) needs. The Herefordshire Safeguarding Partnership has agreed on a participation strategy, a Voice of the Child and Participation Toolkit, which is now available on the Herefordshire Council website for use by all partners, which support strategic planning and service improvement. Turning to the Community Wellbeing Directorate, the first year of the Community Safety Partnership Strategy has been implemented, focusing on 4 priority areas: domestic abuse, violence against women and girls, sexual violence, misuse of drugs, and neighbourhood crime. Implementation has been carried out through strategic and operational subgroups aligned with key outcomes, and progress is monitored quarterly by the Community Safety Partnership Board. There are 3 milestones that are being carried over into 2025-26. The evaluation of the technology pilots within the wider Technology Enabled Living programme is taking slightly longer than originally anticipated. However, work on this is underway to go through all outcomes with the participating customers to undertake the evaluation, and will be completed by the end of April 2025. Secondly, work is also underway to identify 3 new work opportunity providers to extend the services for people with learning disabilities and mental health issues. And thirdly, a full business case has been worked up on the options for investing in and building the Council's own care facility, and will be considered by Cabinet in autumn 2025. Within the Economy and Environment Directorate, the Hereford Enterprise Zone has supported 7 businesses with employer travel plans to encourage more walking and cycling, exceeding the target. And finally, the waiting list for traffic regulation orders, or TROs, has been significantly reduced from 130 to 61 schemes waiting to be started. Turning now to the theme of place, the graphic shows 59 milestones in the delivery plan, with 45 completed, 4 are red, and as previously will be carried forward into the delivery plan, with 9 coloured purple being incorporated also into the delivery plan. 1 is coloured white and is awaiting an outturn on the CO2 emissions to be available in order to assess whether the target has been met. A key area of focus of the delivery plan was to expand and maintain the transport infrastructure network with the goal of improving connectivity throughout the county. This includes enhancing existing routes, developing new connections, and ensuring long-term environmental and economic sustainability in transport planning and development. A parking strategy for the city has been developed as part of the Transport Infrastructure Improvement Plan. The library strategy is progressing and is hoped to be delivered by the end of Q1 of 25-26. The contractor is also due to be appointed to redevelop the library and learning centre in the Shire Hall by the end of Q2 of 25-26. And likewise, the construction work to redevelop the Hereford Museum and Art Gallery is slightly delayed and due to take place during Q1 of 25-26. The delay in completing the public consultation on the draft of the local transport plan is due to government changes to the National Planning Policy Framework and therefore was outside of the Council's direct control. And this consultation will take place during Q1 of 25-26. The purchase of additional wetland sites to deliver on Phase 2 of the strategic mitigation for phosphate credits is almost complete and is hoped to be delivered by Q1 of 25-26. The timelines for the publication of the Nature Recovery Strategy have been adjusted in line with the revised timelines provided by the Department for Environment and Rural Affairs. Turning to the third of our themes, growth, I would like to highlight that the graphic shows that of the 42 milestones, 24 have been completed, 6 are red and 12 are coloured purple. A key mechanism to bring employment opportunities to the county is to attract businesses. This includes developing and implementing an inward investment and place marketing plan for Herefordshire. To support this development, the recruitment of an inward investment manager has now been completed in Q4. We successfully delivered the 3-year £7 million UK Shared Prosperity and Rural Prosperity Fund in March 25, and examples of outcomes delivered by this include research and development consultancy, with 35 businesses provided with over 20 hours of support, plus over 100 businesses engaged, one-to-one business advice through 9 professional advisors engaged and 120 businesses receiving one-to-one advice, and one-to-one startups, 45 startup businesses have been supported. There have been challenges resolving the Section 278 matters for planning in the context of other private developments in the same zone have caused a delay to the finalisation of the design and the procurement of the Ross Enterprise Park. This has now been resolved and tenders will go out during Q1 of 25-26. The development and implementation of an inwards investment and place marketing plan for Herefordshire is on track to be delivered during 25-26. Further support for growth in Herefordshire is slightly delayed, but in progress is the allocation of funding for additional employment land and the Careers and Enterprise programme in local schools and colleges to attract students to study in the county. The strategy to support improved network coverage will be better informed following the publication of the results of the 4G, 5G mobile coverage by the River Severn Partnership, and it will therefore be delivered during 25-26. The fourth and final theme of transformation shows within the graphic that there are 26 milestones, with 22 completed and 4 being coloured red and carried forward into next year's delivery plan. The transformation strategy setting out our strategic transformation programme was published in Q4, and our strategic transformation programme will improve all aspects of the way that the council works. We recognise that the needs of our customers can vary, so there is no one-size-fits-all approach. To ensure we work collaboratively and achieve the best results for the residents and businesses in Herefordshire, we have developed a new set of customer standards, which are the foundations for our wider customer transformation programme, which is set out in detail in the transformation strategy. Working in partnership to deliver our ambitions for Herefordshire is at the core of the council plan, and we have made significant progress towards strengthening our relationships with town and parish councils and the City Council in Herefordshire by relaunching and rebranding parish summits. And in Q4, we co-produced Herefordshire Council's Charter, which is due to be published in May 2025. As explained at the Q1 report earlier this year, the Office for Local Government is an office of the Minister of Housing, Communities and Local Government and has been established to provide information about the performance of local government to audiences in all levels of government and to the public. However, some of the data published by Oflog is historic and therefore should be interpreted with caution. The following top 10 indicators are therefore been selected by Herefordshire Council to demonstrate a more meaningful indication of our latest performance. So the key performance indicators are performance of service users aged 65 plus discharged from hospital into Home First who are still at home 91 days after discharge. The Q4 projection was 80% and our Q4 actual figure is 79.83%. Percentage of children and young people's social work assessments completed within the timescale of 45 days. The Q4 projection was 85%. And the actual result was 67.7%. The percentage of children in care who have an up-to-date review, the target was 95%, our figure achieved was 98.25%. The percentage of major planning applications dealt with within 13 weeks or 16 weeks if subject to an environmental impact assessment or with an agreed extension of time, our target was 70% and we've achieved 94.59%. The percentage of non-major, minor and other planning applications dealt with within 8 weeks or with an agreed extension of time, our target was 80%. We've achieved 77.71%. The number of kilograms of waste that is not sent to reuse, recycling or composting per household, our target was 360 kilograms and we've achieved 366.4 kilograms. And that was year to date, was to December 2024. The number of affordable homes delivered, we set a target of 260 and delivered 276. The local count of Herefordshire homelessness, we set 5 and we've achieved 1. And the value of grants awarded to the businesses to support viability and enable growth through UK Shared Prosperity Fund and Rural England Prosperity Fund, we set a target of £2.6 million. We achieved £2.9 million. At Appendix A to the report, we are providing the full detailed status of all 187 milestones that are contained in the Delivery Plan 24-25 across the 4 themes of people, place, growth and transformation. I would like to take the opportunity to remind my Cabinet colleagues that in support of our relentless challenge for excellence, this year's Delivery Plan builds on 187 of last year, and we will be having 252 milestones in this coming year. In conclusion then, this report continues to highlight the continuing good work that Herefordshire Council is carrying out in support of our residents. I'd now like to invite my Cabinet colleagues to endorse both it and its 2 recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stoddart, for that comprehensive review of the performance. And it's great to see those pie charts, the majority of which are coloured in blue. So that's really encouraging. Right, Cabinet members, any thoughts, comments or observations? Oh, Councillor Price and then Councillor Swinglehurst.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Stoddart, for that very comprehensive review of this report. It just happens to be its first honour is Peterchurch Primary School, and I've been involved with getting a new school for Peterchurch for a number of years. I seem to remember the first estimates being about £5 million, so hanging on has cost us a lot of money. However, I was in Peterchurch earlier this week, and this is about the zebra crossing. I got letters from every year 5 and 6 students at Peterchurch Primary begging, asking for a zebra crossing to make it safer in Peterchurch for crossing that road, which has always been a problem. And I now am to believe that the zebra crossing has now been sanctioned and will be part and will open at the same time as the new school is built in September 26. My one concern about it is that I understood that because it's a 210 school, pupil school, that highways had to pick up zebra crossing as part of the safety measures. When I was there on Tuesday, the head took me on one side and she said she was a bit alarmed to hear that she thought it was coming out of her budget. So could you just take a check for me to see that it's who is paying for it, because all schools are challenged with their budgets, and I was hoping that it would come from highways. But on exactly the same subject, the drainage issues there, because in October last year, on the very serious floods that we had, the current school was flooded, and I met Binny's, the drainage consultants, there on Tuesday. They're looking at and going right the way through the village to make sure that the new school is well protected from flooding measures. And on just another note, and I'm sorry to drag it on one subject, but the swimming pool at Peterchurch Primary, we hope to maintain. It is believed to be maintained in the designs, and I think there is a way of covering it for future use. It is a very big asset to the school and the community, so let's hope that it doesn't become one of those measures that get taken out under value engineering. So thank you for that, and we'll thank you for your report.
Thank you, Councillor Price. Councillor Swinglehurst.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Councillor Stoddart. And first of all, I'd like to say, as I think I probably said at the same time last year, the way you lay this out, the clarity with which this report is given is absolutely exemplary, and I thank you for it. There's a lot of information to get through, and it's just really great to see it so well presented and so clear. I'm just going to remark, be parochial for a moment. I met a constituent the other day who, completely apropos of nothing, remarked on the improvement to the roads. He just said, I've noticed so much now. I'm driving around the roads are so much better, and so seeing the numbers, seeing the 135,000 square metres and extensive surface dressing programme, it shows. And this is about using the resources of the council in a way that our residents feel that it enhances their experience of the county and living here, which is, great. So I just wanted to remark on that. There are some good positives in there for the environment. We're in the warm part of the year, but winter is coming, isn't it always? So it's really good to see the energy efficiency and retrofit of homes, so people, can be warm in the winter. And we've got, completed 231 over the two schemes, 220 which from the Home Upgrade Grant 2 scheme, and also 375 retrofit assessments. We need to do a lot more. We have housing stock that's very demanding in this way, but every one we do is one that's been done, and somebody who will have lower bills and be warm in the winter. So that's really good to see that. You did touch on the CO2 reduction, that we don't have the data for this year, but we are anticipating factoring in the changes to the waste fleet, particularly the full EV vehicles, that number will reduce. So I'm looking forward to actually seeing those figures when they come out. And I just want to put a bit of explanation around the red for the decarbonisation plans. They are coming forward. I've been assured that that all 11 will be through by the end of this month. So hopefully that will take that red off the table next time round. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Swinglehurst. Councillor Gandhi.
Thank you, Leader. Just 2 points, really. First of all, the evaluation of the tech pilots has been completed, and that has informed the suite of tech products that we are rolling out, and they are supporting plans for people with care packages. So certainly when the next performance data comes out, that will not be red. With regards, a less sort of good news, but we had hoped to sign up 3 new providers to provide work opportunities for people with learning disabilities as part of the community activity framework. But in the event no new providers applied to go on the framework, but all those that are on the framework are looking to provide work opportunities. A part of the learning disabilities transformation work that we're doing, we are focusing on securing new options for work opportunities. So that may actually have to come out because it's not something we're going to be able to achieve because there's nobody else coming forward that wants to take it up. Just as a publicity thing, really, regarding the tech, everybody here, and I hope you will spread it further, please look on the website at the Herefordshire Council Virtual House, which identifies very easily by a click button that all of the different items that you can purchase that will help you remain in your home independently with not necessarily having any carer provided. And it is an amazing piece of work, and the people that have actually put this software together are to be congratulated. So it's a really worthwhile piece of work.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gandy, for clarifying those points and for highlighting that really good innovation there. Councillor Bramer.
Thank you, Leader. Ross Enterprise Park. I'm sure that the members for Ross-on-Wye will be delighted, as I am, that today I've drawn down the £7.25 million for the construction of phase 1 of the infrastructure of Ross Enterprise Park. It's only taken 21 years for this to occur, as the acquisition of Model Farm took place as my first act as a councillor when I was first elected in 2003. But 21 years is not long to wait for something as good as this, and I'm delighted to say that it's now underway at last. Thank you.
Got there in the end, Councillor Bramer. Got there in the end. Excellent. And that's really exciting news, not just for Ross-on-Wye's economy, but for Herefordshire's economy. Councillor Powell.
Thank you, Leader. Obviously, I just wanted to make a comment about the indicator that is red regarding Children's Services. There is some explanation in the note, but just to be clear about that, we recognise it does remain a challenging indicator for us, and that is as a direct consequence of some social work staffing vacancies in the assessment team. That is always one of those areas that is more difficult to recruit to. We revised our recruitment and retention offer, which was published in April 2025, so we are seeing applications and increasing numbers of permanent staff being recruited. That is one of those areas of focus. And we do know that when we do get it right, we get much closer to the 100% that we desire against that measure. Just some additional reassurance around that. Amongst the very broad range of measures that are in the improvement plan, which is monitored every 6 weeks by the improvement board, there are two particular measures which focus on that. One is the sufficiency and the stability of our workforce. I'll explain what we've done about recruitment there. And one is a very direct focus on that single performance measure. So there is a high degree of scrutiny on that within the improvement board and the improvement work.
Thank you very much, Councillor Powell. Councillor Durkin.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to come back on something that Councillor Swinglehurst said about the roads. I'm delighted with the continued investment that we have put into the roads, and it's now showing a dramatic improvement to the people of the county. But I think what we mustn't forget is the actual wonderful team that we've got on the highways team that actually produce the ability to go forward with the plans that they have, and provide these services, which will continue into next year. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Durkin, it's an excellent example of where smooth project delivery has really paid dividends, and a lot of hard work has gone into achieving that. And whilst we weren't the contractor who laid the tarmac, we had to do all of the logistics of it all to make sure it was going to happen and be delivered for. So that's excellent, and thank you for reminding us all. Okay, any more Cabinet members? If not, I will turn to group leaders. Can I just check? Councillor Davis, are you online? Can you hear us? Can you see us?
Oh, yes, Leader, I am here. I've been here all the time. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Group leaders. So does any group leader wish to comment? Councillor Davis, did you want to comment?
Yes, well, I would like to say the True Independents welcome the report from Councillor Stoddard, and we'd also like to thank all cabinet members for the amount of work that they actually put into their reports. So we thank you again. That's it.
That's very kind of you to say, Councillor Davis. Thank you very much. Group leaders in the room, Councillor Toynbee.
Thank you. Yes, the Green Group welcomes some much needed catching up on backlogs here, in particular the Section 106 and TRO news. So that's some good news. We've got a few questions. Firstly, in this report, we see that the parking strategy for Hereford has been completed. So we're just wondering where we can find it and if it's been published. A question about the local nature recovery strategy. Could you remind us what the role of the council is in progressing this? And, you know, we've got the LNRS steering group and we've got the local nature partnership. So I think sometimes people wonder if there may be a little bit of danger of a duplication there. So we'd like to know what more can be done to ensure that this is all running as efficiently as it possibly can. We're disappointed to see that public land is still being sold off at Hereford Enterprise Zone. Once land is gone, it's gone and it's no longer a council asset. We want to see the council retaining ownership of enterprise zones as happens in other places. And we hope that, for example, Model Farm isn't, you know, bought and then just so that we can sell it off again. And finally, at the beginning of this meeting, Councillor Price rightly referred to the necessity of having detailed business cases before projects are progressed. So we'd like to know where we are with the full business case for the Southern Link Road. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those questions. And Councillor Harvey?
Yes, thank you, Leader. Well, this is good news, isn't it? The report looks really great. It's good that you've continued the initiative that we started off as a coalition in terms of having a more detailed delivery plan. And it's good to see that officers are increasingly getting the hang of identifying achievable in-year deliverables to put in the plan. With fewer tipping over into the following year or going on forever, as some of them felt like they were doing in previous plans. So this is really good. We welcome this. We look forward to still further improvement in the with a permanent director now in post and overseeing the overall sort of strategy and delivery side of things. Progress on growth is a little disappointing when you look at those pie charts compared to place and people, but we recognise that this area is particularly dependent on inward investment, and it's been a bit of a lumpy year with the general election and a change of government and a lot of changes in direction in terms of central government funding. It's good in a sense that there are so many milestones that have been met even in the transformation area, especially since the corporate and council-wide savings have had such poor delivery in the same time frame. I think Independence for Herefordshire would ask that the deliverables in the current plan are tested for alignment and acknowledgement of savings, progress made in delivery of savings, as well as the tangible sort of service delivery items. Some of these milestones, when you look at them, are relatively focused, small, you could say, and others are really huge with a really high impact. And again, we would ask that the recognition that some of them are on the critical path for bigger and much more strategic programmes that the council is taking forward. So we think it would be good if there was some way in the current year's plan of maybe highlighting the delivery of the scale of some of these that are of particular importance in terms of strategic programmes and highlighting those for the future. And on Councillor Gandhi's point about the virtual house, it's really great to see that up online. It's been a really long road to push, and you know, I'd like to pay Councillor Crockett a compliment as the previous cabinet member for the effort that she put in during her time in office to encourage that initiative to come forward. It's surprising how long these things take. I do sympathise even with Councillor Bramer, which is not my normal habit. But some things seem to take a lifetime. So well done. This looks really good. Looking forward to seeing the Q1 figures for the current year's delivery plan. More, please.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harvey. Okay, so there were some observations there, Councillor Stoddart, on...
Leader, sorry.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Proctor, can I confirm, are you filling in for Councillor James?
I apologise. I was sitting in this seat just before the meeting started when I learned that I would be filling in for Councillor James.
Oh, I see.
Would you like... I can move if it would help.
No. The camera is aligned to your position. So although you might feel a little bit lonely where you're sat, if you could remain seated where you are, then sorry, I'll acknowledge that you're filling in for Councillor James. So please, by all means, go ahead.
Thank you. I agree with, I think, everything that the other group leaders across the road from me have said. I think from a Lib Dem point of view, this report focuses, I think, on slightly the wrong things. So it focuses very heavily on the activity, and I don't underestimate the importance of the activity, and I'm looking forward to some specific activities in my ward, and I shall be very happy when they occur. But it doesn't focus enough on the outcomes and the impact of that activity. So just to give you an example, you've delivered 276 affordable units, which against a target of 260, so that's great. And to pick up on something Councillor Swinglehurst said, for 276 families, that's great, because they've got an affordable house to live in. But we already heard from Councillor Gandhi that we don't have anywhere near enough affordable units, and so I think the temptation to look at the pie charts that show how much of the activity you planned you've delivered is very strong, but really I'd like to understand a lot more about not the specific activity, but the impact that it's having on the county, and that's I think our position.
Thank you very much, Councillor Proctor. So going back to Councillor Toynbee's points, can we have clarification on the parking strategy? So part one of the strategy has been released, and we'll check that it's on the website. Part two is commercially confidential and relates to the development of housing schemes, so that won't necessarily be available in the meantime when certain projects and schemes are being worked up. But we will just get clarification that the public document is available on the website. Councillor Swinglehurst, there was reference to the nature recovery strategy. Did you have any comment that you could give to the Cabinet to assure us that there are no issues there?
Yes, Leader. The role of the council in the LNRS, where the government has asked us to be the responsible authority to bring forward a local nature recovery strategy, and we do this with a steering group of stakeholders, which include Natural England, Environment Agency, Forestry Commission, Wildlife Trust, representatives from National Landscapes, landowners, Biological Records Office, others. We're in a process of engagement with farmers and landowners. So we're responsible for for creating the strategy, doing the baselining, the mapping, which is what we're doing at the moment. It will be out to consultation in the next couple of months. Hopefully we'll have a document by the autumn. The delivery of the aims of the strategy is another subject. At the moment we're writing the strategy. And I think that and how that is funded and the mechanisms that will come to that are still an evolving picture. I think I would say that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There was a point, Cabinet, about the selling land at the enterprise zone in Hereford. I think the point that we must all remember is the fact that we primed the site, we invested in the site in the first place, and that required significant investment by this council. And when businesses want to buy the land so that they can develop it, that payment for that land is what then replenishes the initial investment that we've done. But we must remember that the goal was not to become a landowner or a landlord. The initial, well, the primary goal was to increase economic growth and business development. So I think we are meeting that obligation by doing what we are doing. But we do retain the Shell store, and we have retained that so that the council can rent that, and we will continue to invest in our economy. It may have taken 21 years in Ross-on-Wye, but as you've all heard, that's really positive news. Councillor Stoddart, did you want to add anything?
Thank you, Leader. Yes, just to address Councillor Proctor's point about the performance report, it is actually the performance report tied to the delivery plan, so it is action. What I'm very aware, as we embrace, we listen to comments that come to us, and therefore the point you're making on the impact of each of these milestones or the actual key points needs to be, we need to look at in the next delivery plan perhaps to have a column that talks about impact of this, which address it, but it's not in the performance report by its name is what have we done, not the impact of it. So, but we can look at looking at improving that and taking it forward, and I'll speak with the officers as we go through this year. But thank you very much for your comment.
Okay, thank you. I particularly like the fact that last year was referred to as a bit lumpy because of the change in government. That's a good way of putting it, Councillor Harvey. And the point about making sure that the deliverables align with the savings programmes as well as the council aspirations in delivering the council plan, I think is an interesting idea. And I think we as a cabinet, we'd like to pursue that further. And so, Councillor Stoddart, if we can give that some thought as we're preparing future reports, that's an interesting idea. Okay then, but thank you for picking up Councillor Proctor's point. Right, okay, well we have, Councillor Price.
Yes, just in response to Councillor Tony B's. I haven't forgotten you, don't worry. There was a suggestion in what you said that the business case for the Golden Valley Parkway is somewhat to be the same as the phase 1 of the Western Bypass. These business cases do mature, and as you finalise them, they become more to the point of delivery. Let's start with the question that we had about the Golden Valley Parkway. That is not even reached an outlined business case at this moment in time. We have to deal with Network Rail. Network Rail are notoriously difficult to get to a point of a business case, as we have found with the Transport Hub. It has been delayed quite a while because of transactions with them. So the business case is a long way off for the Golden Valley Parkway. With regards to the phase 1 of the Western Bypass, that has been ongoing for a very long time. We are in a position to deliver. We've put the money aside to be able to deliver it, and that business case is now being finalised for the delivery with known financial costs when we get to it. So it's somewhat different. As you well know, the Western Bypass has been on the cards for a very, very long time. It's been here, there, and to a point of delivery cancelled and back to a point of delivery. So you can't quite compare the same, but business cases have a habit of coming back and back and back and readjusting. So To answer your question, the business case for the parkway is not to be seen in the same light as the business case, because we're at different places with them.
Councillor Toynbee, can you use your microphone? Sorry.
Yes, no, thank you, Councillor Price. I understand the difference between the two things. I was going to ask the question anyway, so it was just interesting that you raised full business cases at the beginning of the meeting. So when might we be able to see, when might it be ready, the full business case for the Southern Link Road?
Okay, we will get clarification. Let's move on. This is not a scrutiny committee, so let's move on, and we will get clarification for Councillor Toynbee. And Councillor Toynbee, apologies for the fact that I didn't pick up that point earlier on. So thank you. Right. Okay. So we've got the recommendations before us. Councillor Stoddard, you'll propose that. Okay. I'll second. All in favour? Thank you very much. That's excellent. Thank you for that. And let's not forget that in that performance, nothing would have happened without our staff doing all of the hard work. So thank you very much to them as well. Agenda item 8 is Q4 budget report. So this is to report on the provisional financial outturn of position for 2024-2025 for revenue and capital budgets subject to external audit. So the 2024-25 outturn shows a net underspend of £0.5 million after the use of reserves and the implementation of recovery plans and actions. This item begins on page 45 of the agenda pack, and so I will ask Councillor Stoddard, the Cabinet Member for Finance, to introduce the item. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leader. The financial position that this Conservative administration inherited from the Green Independent Coalition in May 2023 was dire, with a Q1 forecast overspend of £13.8 million on a revenue budget of £193.3 million. I'd like to fast forward to today, when I'm able to present to you this report, which is the final outturn position for financial year 24-25 and presents an underspend, and I emphasise the word underspend, of £0.5 million on a budget of £212.8 million, which I would also like to remind you all was passed by full council in February 2024 with only 3 abstentions. This turnaround has been achieved through strong and rigorous financial controls and robust leadership by council officers and this Conservative-led administration. And further evidence of this and good, strong governance is the publication last week of our draft statement of accounts, published 1 month earlier than the statutory requirement, putting Herefordshire Council in the top 3% of councils in the country that have published their statement of accounts. As witnessed late last year with the removal of the Rural Services Grant and the reduction of our central government grant by £2 million, this Labour government is not well inclined to rural counties. We therefore anticipate that this year's multi-year settlement will not, and I emphasise not, be kind to us. We have therefore made the financially prudent decision to place this £0.5 million underspend into the General Reserve Fund in order to lift it to £10.1 million, which will equate to 4.4% of this year's net revenue budget and get us closer to the recommended level of 5%. In November 2024, Cabinet approved a transfer of £11 million from the Business Rates Risk Reserve to establish a budget resilience reserve to mitigate against in-year cost pressures. This outturn position confirms the planned transfer of £4 million from the Budget Resilience Reserve applied to cost pressures in adult social care and temporary accommodation budgets in the Community Wellbeing Directorate in 24-25 as proposed throughout last year. This reduces the Budget Resilience Reserve from 11 million to 7 million as at 31 March 2025. The earmarked reserves and general balances policy statement for 25-26 reviewed by Cabinet in January 25 confirms that this balance will be carried forward at 31 March 25 to manage future emerging risks and in-year budgetary pressures over the medium-term period. The Children and Young People Directorate delivered the Children and Young People Directorate budget delivered an underspend of £2.8 million in 25-26 and planned savings of £2.3 million have been delivered in full. This turnaround has been achieved through strong and rigorous financial controls, and of particular note is the leadership of Councillor Ivan Powell and Tina Russell, the Director of Children's Services. A remarkable effort and one that shows that anything and everything is possible. The budget amendment approved in February 2024 removed savings in the Children and Young People Directorate and agreed to award additional funding of £2.3 million to the Directorate. As these savings have been delivered in full, the additional budget was never taken from the reserves to give to the Directorate in 24-25. This amount has been reported separately and transparently throughout the year in the quarterly reports presented to Cabinet, and it is presented as an underspend as noted in Table 1, 24-25 revenue outturn of this report. The reserves were not used by the Children and Young People Directorate in the year, but have been used as part of year-end close-down processes to manage the whole council position, as has been practice in previous years. The Community and Wellbeing Directorate has faced some very significant challenges this year, with significant increases in demand, and includes a transfer from the Budget Resilience Reserve of £4 million, which unfortunately still leaves them £1.5 million overspent. Work will continue to manage demand pressures in 25-26 with additional support from the finance team in forecasting of activity data and costs to enable increased challenge of spend by the service. Appendix A of the report shows the detail of the outturn position by Directorate, which in summary are: Children and Wellbeing are showing a variance of £1.6 million, Children and Young People are showing credit of £2.8 million, Economy and Environment a credit of £1.4 million, Corporate Services a deficit of £1.7 million, SEN and Home to School Transport £3.4 million, Central a saving of £0.7 million, and the budget and the Children and Young People budget amendment of 2.3, leaving us an overall balance or underspend of 0.5 million tonnes. I'd now like to turn to the delivery of savings. Council approved a total of £19.5 million of savings for 24-25, comprising Directorate savings of £11.6 million and £7.9 million of council-wide savings. As at the 31st of March 2025, £10.9 million or 56% of the approved savings have been delivered. Where savings have not been delivered recurrently in 24-25, a focused review of the original proposals and planned activity has been undertaken and revised saving plans have been developed, where appropriate, to confirm activity to deliver the savings in 25-26. The revised savings plans will be approved as part of Directorate Savings Boards and Budget Boards in 25-26, and delivery will be monitored robustly against approved targets as part of monthly routine budget monitoring arrangements. The status of the individual savings plans is included at Appendix D to the report, with a summary by the Directorate in Table 3, which shows that Community and Wellbeing have not delivered £0.8 million, Economy and Environment £0.5 million, Corporate Services 1.6 and council-wide savings of 5.7, giving a total of £8.6 million. The council-wide savings of 5.7 million to be delivered are my key priority, and I'm working closely with officers to ensure that robust plans are in place. I'd now like to turn to the dedicated schools grant. The cumulative DSG deficit is accounted for as an unusable reserve on the Council's balance sheet, as permitted via statutory instrument, which will remain in place until the 31st of March 2026. This enables all local authorities to ring-fence the DSG deficit from the overall financial position in the statutory accounts. Beyond the period of the statutory override, the expectation is that any balance on the DSG unusable reserve will transfer back to the Council's total earmarked reserves. On the 1st of April 2024, the cumulative deficit brought forward was £6.1 million. The outturn position for 25-26 is an overspend of £13.9 million in 24-25, and this increases the Council's cumulative DSG deficit to £20 million at 31 March 25. A deficit budget of £20.2 million has been approved for 25-26. If expenditure is contained within the approved budget, the cumulative DSG deficit will total £40.2 million by the 31st of March 2026, which is the end of the statutory override period. The earmarked reserves and general balances policy statement for 2025-26 reported to Cabinet in January 25 highlighted forecast earmarked reserve balances excluding schools balances of 45.7 million as at the 31st of March 2026. If reserves are required to support the Council's financial position in 25-26, there will be insufficient earmarked reserves to mitigate the cumulative deficit balance at the 31st of March 26. The risk to the Council's overall financial position once the override period ends is being monitored alongside the assessment of the adequacy of the Council's reserves as part of the Council's medium-term financial strategy and risk strategy. And I would like to highlight that this issue is a major concern amongst local authorities nationally. Herefordshire, like many other local authorities, continues to experience increases in demand which are not met by corresponding increases in funding. There is a significant risk across local government and the number of authorities with significant DSG deficits is increasing. The Council continues to work with the Department for Education, the Local Government Association and other local authorities to seek clarification on the position once the statutory instrument expires and a sustainable funding strategy for the high needs budget. Measures to contain the deficit and mitigate future cost and demand pressures will be managed by the service through the DSG Deficit Management Plan, and the financial impact of agreed mitigations will be monitored and reported throughout the year as part of the Council's routine budget monitoring processes. I would like to emphasise to you all that I maintain a very close watching brief on the DSG Deficit Management Plan and will continue to ensure that Cabinet remain fully briefed. I would now like to turn to that next topic of capital outturn. The 24-25 approved capital budget of 160 million has been revised to 97 million. The revised capital budget includes £15.3 million of unspent project budgets brought forward from 23-24, approved movements of 0.3 million, 4.1 million additional grants, and a reduction of 82.7 million which has been reprofiled into future years, all of which are detailed at the bottom of Appendix B in Table B. The final spend position is 74.1 million, which represents an underspend of 22.9 million against a budget of 97 million, an increase in underspend of 5.6 million against the position reported at Q3. Full details for each project are in Appendix B, Table A, and this underspend consists of £5.2 million of projects that have delivered below the project budget and 17.7 million in respect of project budgets to be rolled forward delivery in 25-26 and 26-27 of £6 million. The full capital programme, analysed by project for current and future years, can be seen in great detail at Appendix B, Table B. At the Scrutiny Management Board of 26 March this year, I was asked by Councillor Harvey if I was confident that I will deliver the £79 million forecast being reported, to which I replied yes. She then asked me to what degree of accuracy, and to which I then replied 5%. The forecast was £79,637,000 and the final spend was £74,087,000, and therefore we were 7% below the target of £5.5 million, and therefore, sadly, I have missed my target by 2%. This outturn report clearly shows Herefordshire as an outlier of financial stability and reflects the hard work, determination and good financial governance that we have in place to deliver an underspend in these very challenging times. As such, it is clear demonstration of us applying our vision for Herefordshire as we contained in the Herefordshire Council Plan of delivering the best for Herefordshire in everything that we do. I would now like to invite my Cabinet colleagues to endorse this report and its 2 recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stoddart, again for a comprehensive report. Cabinet members, any comments? Councillor Hercombe?
Thank you, Leader. I'd just like to put on record my thanks, and I'm sure my colleagues' thanks, to Councillor Stoddart and to Rachel and her team for the hard work that's gone into this. Pete's said everything I think that needs to be said, but thank you for your hard work.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gandhi.
Thank you. I would like to have said that we were in the same position this financial year that we were in the previous financial year, but we're not. And at the present moment in time, and we do not know what the multi-year settlement will be, I cannot see adult social care being in a good place financially. To give a couple of examples of the demand that we are having to deal with, in the long-term demand of domiciliary care has increased by 23% over last year. The increased demand for extra care housing has increased by 10%. And then in the short-term service users, Home First has increased by 26%, and residential respite care, short-term, has increased by 50%. And that has made a huge impact upon, along with the temporary accommodation, etc., huge impact upon this directorate. We are hoping that the government will come forward with something that will support adult social care, but I'm not holding my breath.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification, Councillor Gandhi. Any other Cabinet member wish to speak at this time? No, if not, I will go to group leaders. I'll go to Councillor Davis first. Councillor Davis, any comments?
Thank you, Leader. The True Independents would like to place on record our thanks to Councillor Stoddart and to Rachel Saunders and her team for guiding the whole council to the end of your position. Whilst we acknowledge some areas where we need further work, we would wish to highlight the example of children's services delivering the level of savings shown. In our view, the relentless pursuit of delivering the required service improvements to ensure that we best meet the needs of our children and families has resulted in improving efficiency in financial terms. We would therefore to place on record our acknowledgement of the work of the Director and her team working with financial team and her colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Davis. The group leaders, Councillor Harvey first.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Councillor Stoddart, for your presentation of the report. Independents for Herefordshire note that you're quoted in a number of press advertorials this week as saying, "We have turned around the finances of the council and have a £500,000 underspend." And you go on to say that you have not performed magic. On the contrary, we would maintain that you have. Because like magic, Councillor Stoddart, your positioning of the finances seems to employ a degree of misdirection and sleight of hand. It's stated that you have a £500,000 underspend. However, it also says after the deployment of reserves. And what that amounts to is £4 million of reserves from the Resilience Fund, 2.3 million from other reserves, and 2.5 million from unbudgeted interest income that has come in year. So actually you have an £8.3 million overspend, which has been plugged with the deployment of £8.8 million worth of reserves and interest income. It is easy to get rid of a £13 million overspend in children's if you increase the Directorate core budget by £17.6 million, which is what you have done. This is akin to dealing with a hole in the ground by lowering the area around it to make it seemingly disappear. Perhaps this novel approach is something that, if you favour it, you might recommend to Balfour Beatty as a way of dealing with the council's crumbling road network. We do recognise that directorates have done well in delivering on their budget savings, particularly the Children's Directorate, which did not have a track record of doing that. And we would like to congratulate the Cabinet Member and the Director for the hard work in changing the approach in Children's Directorate and making that happen for the Council for this year. But we would ask that you paint the accurate picture in terms of the overall financial position. You could have a much greater underspend if you'd taken even more money from reserves. And really, it is more transparent and honest to state to the public what the real position is. We're a little disappointed that you're considering that you were handed a very poor financial position from us, because we always made an effort to give credit where credit was due. And we feel that under the circumstances that we had to encounter while we were in office, that actually we did a pretty good job, and we were presented with some huge underspends by our officers that they said they simply hadn't been able to anticipate only weeks previously when they were signing up to budget figures which then seemed impossible to deliver. I'm glad that is no longer the case here in Herefordshire, and long may that improved approach to budgeting and forecasting continue. We are in difficult times, and we're all waiting hesitantly for the information to come forward from government on what the local government funding formulas are going to look like. It is good news that we will have more than a one-year settlement. At least, however bad it is, it will help us plan a little better for the future. You're right in your advertorials in the press. You do have to take everybody with you when you are a minority administration. And that is also requiring you to be fair and also to be transparent. And I would have wished for this report to have been a little bit more open about the degree to which it has been funded by reserves and the reality of the overspend position before those reserves were deployed.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey, for those comments. Councillor Toynbee, and then we'll go to Councillor Proctor.
Yes, thank you. The Green Group also recognise the reality of the financial situation that we're in, and we are constantly lobbying for decent funding for Herefordshire, and of course we have an MP at Westminster who's doing the same. The more value for money we achieve for Herefordshire people, the better. We all support that. However, underspending is a very crude measure on its own of responsible politics or community well-being. Underspending is not necessarily a positive indication. For example, the underspend on so-called short breaks for children and young people. We know there is no reduction in demand for that, so presumably the underspend is due to a lack of capacity. And a couple of comments about reserves. As Councillor Harvey mentioned, it's very important that residents are aware of how money is moved around between reserves and from reserves, and the headlines that Cabinet puts out does not always make that clear. And secondly, what has happened to the climate reserve? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Toynbee. And finally, but by no means least, Councillor Proctor.
Yes, I mean, I echo the position that it's good that in a position in a context of very difficult financial situations, you have balanced the books, but you have balanced the books by dipping into reserves. That's a perfectly reasonable thing to do, but you can only do that. You can only dip into reserves until the reserves are gone, and we are carrying, the council is carrying quite a lot of financial risk, some of which you've identified, and I'm in the DSG, and we are in a situation where, to pick up on a point that Councillor Toynbee made, where some of the decisions that we're making in terms of finance will have very significant consequences for people. So the DSG is about making sure that children with special educational needs and disabilities have the education that they need, and so that makes it very hard to control, and it also means that it's very hard to manage that down at the same time as delivering the sort of outcomes for children and young people that we want. I just add to Councillor Gandhi's list of all the risks in adult social care. You left off the implications of PIP. So it would have been ideal to go into the next year with all of the savings targets met and not £5.7 million of council-wide savings still defined and 8.6 million overall, and with the reserves considerably larger. We are where we are, but I think I share the opposition group's position of we're not sharing in duplication, and the council's position at the moment.
Well, thank you, group leaders, for your really optimistic appraisal of the delivery of the budget that's come forward. You know, I reflect Cabinet on the fact that, you know, I wouldn't like to be in the shoes of many other councils up and down the land when they're struggling with the huge challenges financially that they've got to deliver a balanced budget and to set a budget, a realistic budget for children's services is where the magic happens. Previous administration came into difficulty with delivering the budget, especially with children's services, because they didn't budget accordingly, and the magic is to know how to budget accordingly. I would also say that there are many positives that have come out of managing the council's resources properly and appropriately, and this is what has led to a robust position. And where we're using underspends to bolster our financial credibility, I think that is a really positive thing to do. With regard to transparency, the strategy that we've adopted in delivering this budget in year has been set out in previous quarterly updates and reports, financial reports. So we've been completely transparent about how we manage the finances of this council, and to suggest otherwise, I think, is the misleading thing here. So I would just like to congratulate Councillor Stoddard and the finance team for getting us into this sound financial position. I note the concerns and the risks that Cabinet members and also group leaders have put. Local government is a risky business because we're trying to do so much with limited resources, but to be in this financial position at this time, in the given climate that we face with regard to the financial uncertainties, I think is a real positive for Herefordshire Council. It's a firm foundation with which to meet the future challenges. And I thank you, Councillor Stoddard, for taking us through these challenging times. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to reassure Cabinet of the situation.
All I can say, thank you, Leader, is that you have mine and Rachel's full attention. We will work relentlessly to drive these down. The savings plans we will be on top of. If I can just address you on the issue that Councillor Toynbee brought up about the climate reserve balance. It's there. It was £953,000 at the start of this year, and spending years occurred according to the service plan under Councillor Swinglehurst, and the closing balance at the end of this financial year was 726. So it's not gone away. It is there.
Thank you. And the issue of short breaks was raised. Can we make sure that Councillor Toynbee's got clarification on the current picture with regard to short breaks provision and how we're meeting that requirement? Thank you. Right, so without further ado, we have a recommendation before us. Councillor Stoddard, I presume you'll propose that. I will second. All Cabinet in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. Agenda item 9 is risk management strategy. So this is to approve the risk management strategy and corporate risk register. So the item begins on page 81 of the agenda pack. And again, Councillor Stoddart, 3 out of 3. I'll ask you to present the report.
Thank you, Leader. The final report that I present to you today is the Risk Management Strategy 2025-26. Colleagues, I've been involved in risk management for over 20 years and became a management of risk practitioner 10 years ago. I'm therefore speaking to you today from a position of experience. This Risk Management Strategy 2025-26, produced by our S151 officer Rachel Saunders in collaboration with the corporate leadership team, is one of the best such documents that I have seen. It is clear and written in plain English, so easily understood by all, not just risk professionals. The Audit and Governance Committee have been engaged in the development of this strategy throughout the whole of 24-25, and the draft strategy was reviewed by the committee in March this year. In addressing each of the areas of the strategy, I feel that in defining the risks and the risk categories, it clearly sets the context and indicates the categories of risk within Herefordshire Council. Strategic delivery includes those risks that will prevent the timely delivery of priorities and objectives of the Council Plan 24-28 and supporting annual delivery plans across the themes of people, place, growth and transformation. Legal and compliance includes those risks arising from a defective transaction, financial risks arising from those not managing risks and finances in accordance with requirements and financial constraints. Governance risks arising from unclear plans, priorities, authorities and accountabilities. Data and technology risks arising from a failure to produce robust, suitable and appropriate data and information. Security risks arising from a failure to prevent unauthorised and/or inappropriate access to the estate and information. And finally, reputational risks arising from adverse events, including ethical violations, a lack of sustainability, systematic or repeated failures, or poor quality or lack of innovation, leading to damages to our reputation and/or destruction of trust and relations. The roles and responsibilities section clearly and specifies what is required from specific roles and highlights that a strong risk management culture is demonstrated through the way in which officers and elected members understand and comply with the Council's risk management strategy and processes. Emphasising the importance of the Thrive core values as the guiding principles, and within the elected members element, it clearly indicates that all, I repeat, all elected members have responsibilities in respect to risk. And we shall work with Democratic Services to ensure that risk training is provided to all members. The officers section specifies individuals and all staff indicating their responsibilities in regards to risk. The Risk Management Framework and Processes section breaks down the coordinated activities and processes into 5 very clear steps. Number 1, establish objectives. Number 2, identify the risks. Number 3, analyse and evaluate the risk. 4, manage through mitigation or treatment the risks. And number 5, record and report. Activity will continue in 25-26 to ensure that this strategy is translated to the management of risk across all services and projects, and that the risk appetite drives decision making and service delivery. Within Herefordshire, there will be 3 levels of risk registers. The corporate risk register are those of significant, strategic and cross-cutting importance that require the attention of the Council's most senior managers and elected members. Each of the corporate risks has named risk owners, a lead cabinet member and a director who are jointly accountable for their management. Directorate risk registers are those that require the attention of the respective directorate leadership team, the director and heads of service or senior managers. Directorate risks may be local versions of those on the corporate risk register, e.g. directorate budget or information management and governance, articulating in more specific terms how the Directorate manages the risk as it relates to their services. Other risks may reflect issues specific to that Directorate. Should a Directorate risk increase in significance to the extent that it may become a corporate impact, then that risk may need to be escalated to the Corporate Risk Register. Service risk registers include those for programmes and projects and are those of a more operational nature. Risks at this level are reported to the respective service management team or programme or project board. Should a service level risk increase in significance, it may need to be escalated onto the Directorate or even the Corporate Risk Register. The Risk and Insurance Manager is responsible for ensuring consistency in approach across the 3 levels of risk register. Identifying when a risk should be escalated is an important part of the monitoring process, and there may be instances when further action to mitigate a risk cannot be taken by its current owner, meaning it needs to be escalated. For example, from Directorate to Corporate Risk Register, or from the Service to Directorate Risk Register. And this activity will be supported by the Council's Risk and Insurance Manager. Risk management is a key part of the Council's governance arrangements, and the risk management strategy supports compliance with statutory requirements of the Accounts and Audit Regulations of 2015. At Appendix A, the strategy sets out Herefordshire Council's risk appetite levels as being one of 4: averse, cautious, open and eager. In Appendix B, these are then applied across each of the categories, with the amber colour indicating the Council's risk appetite for each risk category, with the teal colour indicating the Council's appetite for identified exceptions. At Appendix C, the Corporate Risk Register shows the 8 corporate risks with details of the risk owner, the risk appetite, control measures and mitigating actions, the inherent risk score and residual risk score. And I'm particularly pleased to see that this risk register clearly links to the Council plan and its 4 themes of people, place, growth and transformation, thus providing a golden thread starting to link everything together. At the recent Audit and Governance Committee meeting, this number of corporate risks was agreed as being an appropriate quantity. In summary, this is a very good piece of work which will support our strong governance and provide full transparency of the risks faced by the Council and how they are being addressed. And I would like to invite my Cabinet colleagues to endorse the report and its 2 recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stoddard. And at the risk of moving ahead swiftly, do any other Cabinet members wish to comment? No, if not, I'll go to group leaders and I'll follow the same format. Councillor Davis, do you have any comments on the risk register?
To say thank you, Councillor Stoddard, for a thorough report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Toynbee, thank you.
Thank you. Just very briefly, I was pleased to hear Councillor Stoddart emphasise the importance of training for members, because the responsibility we all have to understand the council risk and how we manage it is actually huge, and it's really important that people are aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Toynbee. Councillor Harvey?
Yes, thank you. And again, like Councillor Stoddard, coming from a defence background, I'm used to the strategic approach to the management of risk, and it's good to see that this is a much more tightened and rigorous approach to the management of risk that's been developed. It's been in the doldrums a bit, and it's good to see that our eyes are back on the issue, particularly with all of the challenges and uncertainties that we're facing in the local government operating environment. I have had a bit of a to and fro on the email with Rachel over aspects of the approach that is being taken, and I'm glad to see that some of the suggestions that I've made have been taken into account and reflected in the document that's come to Cabinet. I still think that there is something in the way that the council looks at risk that is missing at the moment. Certainly from a defence perspective, I'm used to considering the different ways of managing risk as being avoid stroke resolve, transferring the risk to somebody else, and obviously we look at doing that sometimes in the way that we word our contracts, mitigating that risk ourselves, or accepting that risk and just keeping a really close eye on it, because it isn't necessarily something, but it's really that we can affect, but it's something really important that we keep an eye on, and at the speed at which it might be approaching us, and also the direction from which it might be approaching us. And on that topic, I'm a little surprised that in the corporate risk register appendix that we've got, we do have mention of flooding and heat waves, and at an operational and tactical level, yes, we need to deal with those, but in terms of a corporate risk, I would have expected to see the mention of climate change, actually, because its impact is much broader than just the weather and how that affects us when it happens. And it's happening, it will have an impact across all aspects of how we operate, both as a council and also for our county. And we do need to be thinking about owning at least an overview of the risks to the county, even if they're not necessarily risks that we own and control in terms of being able to do something about them. So I think that's our comment on that. But broadly speaking, we welcome an improvement in the approach to risk management and look forward to its active management in the months and years to come.
Thank you very much. And finally, Councillor Proctor.
Thank you. Yes, Lib Dems also welcome this renewed strategy and renewed focus. I think the most important thing that Councillor Stoddart picked up on was a risk culture. So it's not about the pieces of paper, it's about the fact that risks are actively identified and managed throughout the organisation. Members will have an important role to play in that, and that should form part of the conversations that are had at Cabinet and at scrutiny, and I hope that we'll see some of that. I have just a small number of questions. It might be that I just missed this. I'm sure in an earlier draft, audit and governance, there was a commitment to publish quarterly to Cabinet, and if that, I just couldn't see it in these papers. But can we just confirm that is going to happen? I suppose one of the terrible things that happens when you publish a risk register is everybody goes, but what about this risk? But we've just been talking about some very significant financial risks, and I was surprised not to see them here. But presumably they are on, if they're not here, they're on a directorate risk register somewhere. So some assurance on that would be nice. And also, I'm troubled by risk R8, because I have a background in emergency planning, and I feel like the community risk register should be, all of the individual risks in the community risk register should be treated as individual risks and allocated to the right risk register, rather than just putting the community risk register as a corporate risk. But I accept other views might exist for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Proctor, and thank you, group leaders, for those observations and points that have been made. Councillor Stoddart, in view of any of the comments, especially the part about the quarterly report to Cabinet, could you just clarify that to Cabinet, please?
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I can confirm through yourself to Councillor Proctor that we will include, you'll have another report from me on risks every quarter, which will be added to the list of the other three. Because that's exactly what it's about. It's about transparency. It's about making sure all council is aware of the risks and what we're doing about them. And I welcome any observations and comments from all group leaders about how we can improve this. So please keep them coming.
Excellent.
But we work with corporate services about the training as well.
Yes, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Training for members is always a good thing. So it's great that that's embraced and incorporated into the strategy. Right, okay then. So I take it, Councillor Stoddart, you're going to propose. I will second from the chair. And Cabinet members, all in favour? Thank you very much, and that concludes agenda item 9. So it just remains for agenda item 10, which is to officially close the meeting. So I would like to thank everyone for their attendance, either in person or virtually. The next meeting will be scheduled for the 17th of July at 2:30 p.m. Thank you for everyone's contributions, comments and observations. So I will now formally close the meeting. Any members of the public are requested to leave the building promptly. And can I please ask that you cease the live stream? Thank you very much.